Welcome back, everybody, to SmarterU Media, where we guarantee we'll make you smarter in 2 minutes, but will be so much fun. You're going to want to stick around for a lot longer. I am super excited today. We have one of my new favorite people here, Mr. Alderson himself. David Alderson, welcome to SmarterU.
Well, thanks for having me this morning, and you can refer to me as David. Mr. Alderson was my dad, but
Uh,
I
well,
appreciate the formal introduction.
Yeah, but since your name's up there in lights, we had to start that way. But David, truly, you are one of those people that it's been a joy to get to know over the last year as we've talked about things far beyond what we do on a day-to-day basis to try to help people find better ways to make family business and entrepreneurship work. And that's our mission at SmarterU. We hope you will be out there learning something that we're going to bring to you today, but honestly, take it with you. And the journey of life is to learn and continue to enjoy that process, right?
That's right. That's right. Here we are.
All
First
right,
one.
now
Let's kick it out.
all right, we guarantee you that we're going to give you 2 minutes that'll make you smarter today. You're going to want to stick around, but if you don't have that time, we understand life is busy. So I'm going to bring out the magic chicken timer, and I'm going to add 2 minutes to it so you can even hear it. There you go. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, that's two. And now we're going to set you loose, David Alderson, on the world and go.
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. There's a lot to think about in business. I have to start out that I was a car dealer, actually just a car salesman. People that wanted to keep me grounded said, "You're just a car salesman," or I was a service advisor, but was lucky enough to take over a family business and grow it quite extensively until just a few years ago. But I think the topic today is who's the family in your family business? And I think you have to look at not only your family, people that work inside the business and outside, but I think there's another set that's your family, and that's all the people that you work with every single day.
That's so true.
And then I think the third part is you have to look at your customer base as your family. Treat them as you would treat your own family. We were fortunate enough to be a Lexus dealer, and when they launched Lexus, they launched it with treat each customer as a guest you would in your own home. It means a lot to people when you invite them to your home. And so that philosophy has probably been changed somewhat since the launch of Lexus. But I think if you think about those three assets to your business, your family, the people that you work with every day, and your customers as family, and treat them as such, it will help you a lot. I remember my dad one time driving around. This was back in the 70s, and Lubbock was not a huge place, but a lot of four-way stops. And I noticed my dad, when we were driving, would sit there and he would always wave to someone that was in a Cadillac or a BMW. Those are the two franchises we had at that time. Well, I asked him one time, I said, "Why do you always wave when you pass one of our customers in one of our cars?" And he said, "Well, I probably don't know them. I may know them, but I know this. They probably know me." So I think that's the recognition of always looking, and kind of something that always resonated with me in my business was, always treat somebody because they're going to know you.
Look at that. That was kind of as if you were wrapping up right as the chicken started talking to you. I mean, that's absolutely beautiful. Now, as you know, we're not going to try and keep you around if you can't, but we're going to keep going because there's so much in what you just started, David, that makes me want to sort of dig into it because I think it's universal principles, right? If we can find things we can incorporate into our lives that make our lives better and the people's lives around us, that's pretty lovely. What I heard you describe was concentric circles of people in your life that if you can treat more and more of those circles like your family, not only will your business be better, but there's no doubt your life's going to be better.
Yeah, I think so. I asked some people that I'd worked with, and they said, I think the way that you engaged your customer base for 72 years, actually, even though we grew larger, and we weren't one of the largest car dealers in the country. We were basically focused in West Texas, but we had 6 dealerships and represented 5 franchises. And that was something that no matter how big we got, we always had to treat each interaction as family. And sometimes that's hard. I mean, people that come to a car dealership are not necessarily excited, especially when they come in for service. But, try to work through that and do the right things and treat them as you would one of your own family members.
Yeah, boy, there's so much. I honestly, the car dealership world is one of those great mysteries. It's not that different from when you go in as someone who knows nothing about fixing your car to a mechanic. So many people sort of face that buying of a car or any part of that relationship with such dread because
Yeah.
historically it was that. It's changed so much over my lifetime, over our lifetimes, to what I think is a very different dynamic. But when you start giving tips and things that will help me as a human feel better about going into that process, that's just valuable stuff.
Yeah, there's car dealers historically were rated very low as far as people you wanted to do business with. It was always the negotiation way back at what years ago. Well, we don't negotiate quite as hard as we used to, fortunately, for the industry. But I think if you could look back across your career and take what was probably not an exciting thing, like most people go to buy an iPhone, man, they're excited. I'm going to get a new phone. I'm going to get an upgrade. I'm going to get new apps. It's a really exciting thing. People come into a car dealership and it's kind of like they're defensive. So I think if you can take that and make it into a positive where they enjoy coming in, and I think that's just enjoying being around people. People ask me, do you miss the car business? I miss parts of the car business. And one of the things I miss the most is the people that I worked with in all our dealerships because
Yeah.
they're the dynamic people and we treated them as family and they were family. We had people with us. I think our longest ranking employee was with us 44 years. So
44 years. That's
44 years.
that's
And
amazing.
and I think you can apply these if you're starting a new business, if you're second generation, if you're growing your business. I think these principles will help just be a lot of your values and your core values is the family principle.
Yeah, well, I think it's well worth our digging into what does that word mean because
Okay.
it's so um, it's so different in different contexts. The sometimes your family are the people that you have the most trouble getting along with at Thanksgiving
So
or
true.
any other time. So we think of that blood, but then we really use the word for something that's much broader than that. So what does family mean to David Alderson, who is the name on the Family Business Center at Rawls College of Business?
I think family means communication, interaction. Being a third generation on the family side of our business, we had to get together at least once a year, make sure you talk through things. And as you said, there's a lot of jokes about showing up to Thanksgiving dinner and crazy Joey's over here and all that. And, when we
Crazy
leave the
Joe. It's always
family,
Crazy Joey, isn't
it's always crazy
it?
Joey.
It's always Crazy
But,
Joey.
you know, in a business, you get to show up with that family every day, all the people you work with and your customers. And so I think communication is a key thing. Listening is a big part of communication. So listening to others' needs and trying to work around those family dynamics or family dynamics, no matter how you look at it.
Well, I can tell you that I so believe that family business, just that those two words together, have so many different interpretations in people's minds. So not just what is family. So I think we've reached a point where we could say, yes, there's family, and those are the people who you are attached to through genetic bonding or adoption or all other kinds of things.
Correct.
But we want to, if we're wise, find more and more people we would like to think of as our family in our lives because it enriches us, whether that's people
Yeah.
who you're in your business with you, so colleagues, as many of those as can feel like family, your life is richer. Friends, extended communities. You are from Lubbock, Texas. So when you mentioned Lubbock, if people don't know, because a lot of people don't, Rawls College of Business and Texas Tech University are in Lubbock, Texas. So I always think of George W. Bush when I think of Texas because of the times that I've lived through. I believe George W. Bush was elected president of the United States because he was someone who was very personable. he was someone who had this way of making you feel like you wanted to sit down and have a chat with him. Well, I think there's a lot of that in Lubbock. So your community itself, I think, imbues you with those kinds of things. What is that? What is that community thing that's outside of the people you know, but the place you live? And how is it embodied in Lubbock, Texas?
Well, it's always said, of course, I was born and raised. Granddad showed up in Lubbock in 1918, so we've been there quite, we're true
Wow.
West Texans.
Yeah.
But people from, it may not be the prettiest place in the world, but there's always the people. But I think it's, a good farming, ranching community. It's all about family. It's all about supper at the table or dinner, whichever one you want to call it. Um, but and not everyone can be fortunate enough to come spend some time in Lubbock. Our George W. obviously spent some time in Midland, Texas, which is out in West Texas as well. Many of you are familiar with that, so maybe that's where he got his personable side, and his father was there as well in the early years. But I think the when I talked about communication and getting together is not being scared to get together. And the family, we get together, the old pictures of everybody around the dinner table. So the more communication you can foster with the employees in your business, so you got to get together and you got to communicate. You got to have something you want to talk about. Don't just get together in a meeting to have a meeting. But again, taking that same thought of a family, I got to get with my family. I need to get with my spouse every now and then. We don't need to be in both ends of the house and never communicate. I just think there's a lot of applications if you take this and work within your business.
Boy, and that's truth. The the communication train is one of those that I hop on and remember how great the ride is. And then, you forget and you find yourself going, oh my gosh, no wonder I can't talk to this person who's in my life now because we just haven't communicated meaningfully, not just a surface, what's going on
Right.
sort of thing, but
Meaningfully, intentionally.
actually communicating, reaching beneath the things to see how people truly are. All right, I'm going to go back to cars because I
Okay.
think I think it's wildly fascinating. I think it is a principle in this country of ours where you are, if you're fortunate enough to buy a house, that's usually your largest purchase. Your next largest purchase oftentimes is a car. So for people in a true practical sense, if you want to get, tips or things or ways that you should go about buying a car today, it's not often that we get a chance to get a true expert sitting with us like we're doing right now. So you've done this for years. If I'm going to look for a car, where do you suggest I start, and what do you think my state of mind should be as I go into it?
Well, if you're going to talk a new car, it's a little different between new and pre-owned. But new, obviously look local. It's best to do business with a dealership that's close to you because you want to build that relationship. Um, if that dealership doesn't offer a good reputation when it comes to service and parts, which is where you're going to be more than that. You probably buy a car once every 4 years, maybe some five. So you're going to be in the service and parts side of that business for two or three times a year for 4 years. So I would focus on that part because you want to develop the entire relationship on the new car side. Um, Pre-owned, I think the best way to start is if you have a particular car in mind, is go to the internet and type in what you're looking for. There's search engines out there that will locate the car for you. It helps you on pricing, kind of guide you to what's a good offer. In fact, in my last few years, or probably the last 7 to 10 years in the car business, having the pricing on pre-owned cars was really a blessing, not just to the customer, but to the dealership because it's
Yeah.
just right there in front of you. So it takes that negotiation, I'm holding the cards and you don't know what I have in the car. It's just, I want a fair price. And that helped a lot. So, and the new cars, there's not much margin anymore. When I was trained to sell cars back in the 80s, we were trained to be, we had to know the product, but we were really trained to be good negotiators. And the
Yeah.
training these days in the new car dealership side, even in pre-owned, is not to be good negotiators. It's more to be just a good product specialist, help the customer find the car that they really like, and then, figure out the best deal and go from there. And there are so many good car dealerships. I know you can find one, close by.
And it is so nice. I remember the difference between buying a car in what the old days were and now, which is completely different. But I think it's something that people need to adjust to on both sides. So it's not just the dealer who has to adjust, it's the customer. So if you're a customer who grew up with this negotiation, we're
Yeah,
at it, we're doing that. If that's
we
what
don't.
I think, yeah, right. You're going to go, yeah, you're going back to your manager. Sure, you are, right? There's
Yeah.
this
Oh
sort
yeah.
of culture of distrust.
I had all
When
those
you,
tactics. I was, yeah, oh yeah. I
so,
didn't use it
but
later in life. It helped negotiating with banks, but I
Guido,
wish I hadn't learned it on customers.
well, I mean, that was what it was. It is
Yeah.
wildly different now. But even just understanding that when you go in, you've gone, I think both new and pre-owned cars, it's great to search on the internet because you're armed with knowledge, and the internet has, certainly changed that like probably every business, right? But it is definitely a different experience than going in knowing what the actual sticker price is and what people
Hmm.
are getting the car for in your area these days, gets you pretty much all the information you need. So I think you're right. That's a great start. It gets you on a different footing. And now you can go in and establish a good relationship, as you said, with the dealer that you're going to be having for a number of years. Now I'm going to ask you a tough question. See, these have all been so
Okay.
softball now. Are you
Okay.
ready?
I'm
Um,
ready.
so what do you do if the dealer is, if your relationship, and I'll talk specifically service, if your relationship with the service department at your dealership is really challenging?
Well, if you're in a bigger metro city, you can probably find one that's, a decent drive, and go to a different store. Um, you know, I was a big fan of the Sewells out of Dallas, and everybody that started to work for their company spent 2 or 3 weeks on the service drive because the Sewells knew customers for life. That's where the real experience starts. So, I
Oh,
guess if you're in a remote situation and the service department's hard and it's not working, then I'm not sure what I could tell you. You don't want to go somewhere else, but hopefully, if the management knows enough, then they will, wrap their head around it, work to do improvement in that part of their operation. But for every car dealer, that's really where that's where the experience is. Now, some people may live 300 miles from a dealer, and so that's not as important. And if that's not, then it's probably just about getting the best deal and working on, where you can get your car serviced. I had a dealer years ago. He was actually up in Seattle, but he had told his staff, he said, look, if the client's not happy and they're haggling over, you shouldn't charge me for this, or you did this before, and I think I should pay this. It was a financial type deal, which most of them come down to that. He said, if they get to me and y'all can't figure it out, then I'm just going to give the customer the money. Well, I always thought that was pretty good because it's like
yeah.
if they're haggling over $1,000, he's just going to give them $1,000 and charge it to that department. So it encouraged management and everybody to look to a resolution before it
Yeah.
got up too high. But anyways, I always thought that was a good philosophy.
It has been so delightful to have time with you. And I know from the experiences I've had with you so far, we could talk all day, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to circle back around and get to the question that we ask all of our guests, which just is we don't feel like we want to just get information. We don't want to just learn. We don't want to just eat a fish. We want to learn to fish. So today, we're going to ask you where can I go to find good information, to curate information? I feel like we're living in the time where that's one of the greatest challenges daily to get information that's not somebody trying to manipulate things to sell me something, but rather something that gives me good information for my life. So do you have any key to that for something that you've found that really works for information?
Sure. And I would be remiss if ultimately we want you to come on family business and entrepreneurship things. We want you to think of the Alderson and Griffin Center and our 2-minute videos and things more to come as a resource. But you have to have resources. And I think as a business owner or a manager in a business, whoever's looking at this today, whether you're looking at some academic areas or books to help you, but I think one of the most critical things is to have 2 or 3 confidants outside your business, outside your family, that you can go to and talk through things. I was fortunate enough to have 2 or 3. I think the first one was always my father, but when he left the business, he retired and went on. And so I looked to find other people, and one of them was a buddy of mine in the South. And we didn't talk a lot, but we could get together from time to time and hold each other accountable. So I think if you're out there and you're young, even if you're not young, and you're looking to build your business or build your career, you need people that you trust to be honest with you. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can have, and that honesty will pay off many times over in the long run.
I love that answer and it's completely novel because so often when we think of information and when I ask the question, I'm thinking of information in terms of the interweb and all of the ways that we're connected to these sources out there, like the Mayo Clinic. You and I have talked about that. If I want health information, I'm going to go there because I know they are top of the game and are really trying to give good information. But I think what you said is so insightful because it's just a resource that's undervalued now. Literally having human resources where I can get experience and good information. It's the kind of things we do at the Alderson Griffin Center all the time. It's bringing people together where experts can come and talk, but then we can all gather and have conversation in a way that we're all bettered at the end of it. So, wow, what a great response to sending me off into the
Well,
day.
thank you.
It's been nice to meet you, David Alderson, not Mr. Alderson. That's your dad. But thank you for coming and come back. We'll see you next time on SmarterU Media.